Okay, so let's begin. We are welcome to our discussion today on equity and belonging. However, we are not just taking it from a general perspective, we are taking it from certain biases that comes to mind when we talk about equity or that affects equity, that affects belonging, that affects equality. There are certain biases that comes to mind immediately that comes in. Immediately we have that conversation. I know many of us were conversant with the term DEIB. So today we'll be looking at what are those unconscious biases that affect DEIB. In fact, what does DEIB mean? When we talk about DEIB, we are talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. What does this really, what role has to play in our HR world? Without wasting our time, let us proceed to the conversation for today. Our class is just a 1 hour, 10 minutes class, and we'll have conversation, discussion, and what have you. I remain your humble presenter for this conversation, Ikenna M. Michael Okafor, and I will be having this discussion with you this afternoon. All right. What we're going to look at, we'll understand what the DEIB is and what are the unconscious biases that affect DEIB, the impact of DEIB and the unconscious biases, application of DEIB principle to reduce biases, and we're able to live with commitment to implement at least one best DEIB strategy in our workplace, final tips and takeaway. For those of you going through the exam route, you need to pay rapt attention. You need to pay rapt attention. All right. And I would love to ask, what gets you in the flow during work? What makes your work one thing that makes you happy at work? What is that one thing that when it is present, it energizes you? I want to put this in mind. Do you know that particular thing constitutes part of your bias? When we hear bias, we always think it's negative, negative. Bias has just the way conflict could have positive aspect of conflict. Bias have its own positive aspect as well, and that positive aspect of bias make you to begin to question certain things that have in existence and how that can be changed. It could be that anytime the AC is on, you walk well, or anytime the AC is off, you walk well, or anytime, or you feel comfortable walking, you walk faster when, if you are female, when you're working with male colleagues, or if you are female, when you're working with your fellow female colleagues. Those are some unconscious biases that affect our work, both positively and negatively. And the next question is, if you could change one thing about your life, what would that be? What would that be? What would that be if you could change anything about your life? Hmm. What would that be if I'm to change anything about my life? Well, that's a secret. And of all your possessions, what will be the hardest to give up? What will be the hardest to give up if you had to give up something you have now? Maybe in character, personality, and physical possession. Now, to the last question. Would you like to be famous? And in what area or in what form? In the today's world that, trend is one of the word, something that is trendy is the order of the day. What do you want to be known for? You must put consideration into it, context. You must put into context. Before now, it's difficult to see people with dread in the workplace until the tech people came in and it became normal. Since the tech people came in, it became normal. And you see people now, everybody putting on dread and can be employed, get the same equal opportunity that you will get. Do you see that? I know a HR that carries dread. What before now they'll be like, no, you can't. So the question was, what does dread have to do with my product? Equity is different from equality. It's different from equality. Equity is not the same thing as equality. Equality is everybody getting the same proportion, while equity is everybody getting what they deserve. Equity is everybody getting according to their needs. Why equality is everybody getting equal, regardless of your need. Regardless of your need, you get what every other person gets. That's equality. Equality itself is not justice, and that's why we preach more of equity. Inclusion, creating an environment where people thrive. People should feel inclusive. People should be dated, regardless of their divergent views, regardless of their backgrounds. People should feel involved and belonging, making them feel accepted. You can bring people involved just because you want to bring them involved, but they are not really. Based on stereotypes and social norms. These biases operate below the level of conscious awareness, influencing behavior and decision making in ways that individuals may not recognize. In Nigeria, because of our insecurity problem and the supposed people that is allegedly re responsible for that, when I see even the innocent ones working with their cows, immediately I get scared that what of these guys just that is unconscious bias playing out. That's unconscious bias playing out. So it plays in different ways. It plays out in different ways that we don't understand. We are not aware about. We don't know that influencing us. Let's look at some statements that can encourage DBIB. Which of them resonate with you more? So as I'm calling it, and diversity. A diverse workforce leads to more innovative solution and better business outcome. Do you think that's true? Do you think sometimes diversity could lead to disruption? Is it possible? Or does this in the screen, a diverse workforce lead to more innovative solution and better outcome resonates with you? The next one, equity ensures that everyone has access to the same opportunity regardless of their background, caste, and flaws. Does this resonate with you? Inclusion. Inclusion creates an environment where all voices are heard and valued at the moment. This is something you encourage, an inclusive culture. We hear this often now and then. Belonging. Belonging fosters a sense of community and connection, improving employee satisfaction and retention. When people feel loved, when people feel their opinion matters, I think they try to give in their best. Does this resonate with you? Representation. Having diverse representation at all levels of an organization is crucial for essential decision making. Is that really true? What do you think? Does it resonate with you? Cultural competence. Cultural competence is essential for understanding and value diverse perspective within the workplace and work environment. Is this correct? For me, this resonates with me because I remember when I was in the northern part of Nigeria, there are certain acceptable behaviors that are not acceptable in place like Kano, in place like Lagos. And there are certain acceptable behavior in place like Lagos, Abuja, that we are not acceptable in that part of the north that I worked in. So DBIB also says that you should also have cultural intelligence and you should be cultural competent because it will make you to be able to understand and accommodate. Be able to understand and accommodate. Fairness in promotion. Equitable promotion practice are vital for building trust and morale among employees. Some organizations have turned promotion to a tool that is used to winch hunt people. Don't worry, appraisal is coming or promotion is coming. You see what I'll do to you. We've seen that happen several times in various organizations. And as people's manager, it's our duty to, when we see such, raising it earlier at the beginning, we should do what we should squash it. Safe space. DBID can encourage safe space, creating safe space for open dialogue about DIB foster culture of learning and growth. We must talk about these differences. We must talk about these our diversities. We must talk about these our disparities. We have to stand up and talk about it in our workplaces. If we want a workplace that people strive, people succeed, free of toxicity, then we have to create work a safe space, hold brief for people. Okay. Can you reflect on what DIB means to you and share briefly with us? So I'm going to hold on here. Maybe you have something you want to share. Want to share something about the DB, DEB, DEIB? If you want to share, I'm here. But if you don't want to, we will proceed. There are unconscious biases in corporate settings. Yes, there are. Can we have some in the chat box? Mention some biases you think are unconscious. People make them unconsciously, but regardless, they make that biases. Can we have it in the chat room? Okay. While I wait for that, let's proceed. Meanwhile, for those going through the exam route, this is your last class. In fact, this last class for everybody. Your exam will be a week on will be on Friday, not this Friday. A week and 2 days. Maybe before I finish this class, Faith may come in and tell us more about it. But the exam is online based from the comfort of your room, office, house. You can have the exam, but it's timed. I think the exam is just 20 minutes to answer either 50 questions or thereabout. Can't remember again. But I wish you good luck for those that are going through the exam. And if you have attended class, you ace the exam. Though the materials will be sent. Materials will be sent to all those who are going for the exam. But it's a very simple exam if you've attended classes. If you've attended classes, it's a simple exam. Don't make judgment or decisions on the basis of our pure knowledge. Pure knowledge, pure experience, deep-seated thought patterns, assumptions, or interpretations, and we are not aware that we are doing it. Assumptions or pure experience. Let's take a experience. I worked in a place where when we employ a particular age of people, after the first 2 months, they resign. Once they're able to collect 2 months salary and buy phone, they've resigned. We give priority to those who are in their 40s, 50s, yeah, 40 and 50s. We give priority. Why? Because our previous experience have taught us that look, these people don't stay. So that bias came. Again, you see some people in the natural world, people are scared of. We say that when someone that crocodile has chased before, when he sees that he's going to run away. Because of past experience, they're going to have certain phobia without even knowing that that phobia exists. So let's look at types of unconscious bias. These are kind of questions that comes out in the exam. Types of unconscious biases. We have affinity bias, preferring people who are similar to ourselves, to affirm, people who agree with us, people who think like us. So you find yourself tilting towards them. I'm also guilty of this myself. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It depends on how it is contextualized. This is called other race effect bias. You see people who is very good in the office is research, you're automatically drawn to the person. They will have confirmation bias, seeking information that confirm what you already believe. For instance, most of us believe that when lawyers die, they are going to bury them face down. Or that they won't make heaven. Lawyers will not make heaven. That's most people's bias. Then when you're making an argument and say, so lawyers make heaven, someone say, let's not make heaven. Say, hey, I said it. I said it. That is confirmation bias, different from affinity bias. Affinity has to do with the connection you have with somebody. Anchor bias, this type of cognitive bias where individuals rely too heavily on an initial piece of information. The anchor when making decisions, judgment, or estimate. These biases can skew subsequent thinking, causing people to base their decisions disproportionately on the anchor. Because you already have something that you are hinging on, something that you already believed in, something as in as a base or benchmark. Anything that comes below it, therefore, you take it as part of the bias. Oh, yes, that's true. Attribution bias. Assign different reasons for the success or failure of others based on their identity. Yeah, it's because he's from a rich family background. That's why he's performing well at work. It's because he was groomed by this and that. That is why he's doing well in life. Those are attributory bias. How we make decisions are influenced by our biases. How we make decisions are influenced by our biases. The impact of DEIB, and unconscious biases. Do you have anything you want to add? You want to say? Is your mic open? Okay, no. Please, at any time you want to say something, just feel free to open your mic and call my attention. Thank you. The impact of DEIB, the positive side, it helps in better decision making because people are from different background, different perspective, different thinking, different faculty. So you see that decision making comes out better. But though the negative side is that decision making can be slow. Another impact of DPIV is innovation and creativity. It brings some form of healthy competition. And because of that healthy competition, people giving their best translate into innovation, into creativity, thinking, and then an output which is an innovation. The next is increase in retention and net profit score. Employee net promoter. Is it promoter? Yeah. Because when you have a system where people are accommodated, where people are valued, who wouldn't want to stay? Because we need to understand that people work beyond the money. People work beyond salary. People work beyond earning. Some people are here because of recognition. So if they are recognized like this Maslow hierarchy of need, when they are recognized, what happens? They will stay. Your net promoter score is increased. Employee retention is increased. The next is strong team spirits. Because of affinity biases, people may bond easily. There are people whom I've worked with 10 years ago that we are still very good friends. And we've seen a situation where colleagues marry themselves. So all this plays down to the issue of DEIB. Of course, employees are happy. When they're happy, they make their customers happy or their clients. However, this is not to say that the DBIB does. There might be slow decision-making process. Performance management system can be compromised because people have certain biases. It could be that because some from his house is passing people, or that same person made happy by his daughter, he's passing people, is made angry from his house, is failing people, or somebody made him happy, he's passing people. Those are biases too. So with biases comes growth. When people do the right, when people are in the right environment to strive and succeed, it builds a profitable and trusted workplace. It builds a profitable and trusted work. And one of it is McKinsey. McKinsey says 70% of employees have experienced biases in one way or the other, even from the hiring process to the exit process. We've seen it. I remember when I was about to leave a place, and my manager was like, "No, you won't leave." The reason he gave was can be attributed to his bias towards me, and he did whatever he did and ensure that I had to accept. I had to stay back. They made different offers that made me to stay back. This is bias. Company with diverse teams are 35% more likely to outperform their competitors. I I was talking with a HR colleague who was complaining about their marketing team, and she said they all behave alike. In fact, I learned that they have sacked all the marketing team. So I heard, I've not confirmed from her, but somebody was telling me that they all think alike. If one person goes out for market, everybody that's everybody goes out. When the person says, okay, maybe they contact each other. I'm going back to the office. Oh, they always are going back to the office too to see them. They think alike. But when you have situation where you have, I call them deviants, people who think differently. You don't just follow your thought pattern. You're likely to have more increased. Inclusive leaders, values, and culture are 3 times more to be higher in performing. Peter F. Juncker said, culture will eat strategy very fast for breakfast. Therefore, if you have to get it right in your organization when it comes to DEIB, you need to get your culture right. Team with diverse members make better decisions up to 87%. $1 million to close pay gap. Can you imagine that? So that's to tell you how important it has been. Now let's bring it back to Nigerian context. Let's bring to Nigerian context. The first one is gender bias in leadership role. Women are often underrepresented in leadership positions due to unconscious bias that questions their ability to lead. Have we heard the saying that female bosses are usually wicked? I know many of us have heard that. Is that not a bias? That could be a bias. Myself, I've worked with female bosses. In fact, I've worked more with female bosses than male bosses. And my story is different. I feel female bosses are more easy to work with. That is my own bias. That is my own bias. Yeah, highlight that women in corporate Nigeria faces bias for promotion despite being qualified. These are biases where sometimes you want to employ, you say, the job requires traveling. She can't traveling, but a man can comfortably travel. Those are biases we have. You know the way women behave now. If you make them behave, this woman, no, there's a way a woman behaves. So those are kind of biases from certain ethnic group, religion, and so on and so forth. I'll give you an example away from what's on your screen. I remembered hiring for my HR department 2 years ago. Part of the consideration that I used in hiring was a Muslim. I needed a Muslim to balance my team. But in this case, that was not an unconscious bias. It was a very conscious bias. I needed um, Muslims to balance. In fact, I think we employed 2 or 3 Muslims so that we could have that balance in the team. At that time, we employed female. We needed female. And there is a HOD I know in my workplace today. He prefer working with female, not because he have anything to do with them, but he said they make him feel comfortable. Seeing them alone working, as for them doing some kind of job that it, in quotes, believed to be a man's job. You know? So age bias. Younger employees may be overlooked for leadership role, while other may face challenge in adapting to the new technologies. Today we all say Gen Z, Gen Z, Gen Z, Gen Z. But you know, Gen Z are very adaptable, very quick to adapt to anywhere. Only very few other generations can adapt quickly to technology. My colleague's father, who is about 76 years old, the way he does with Facebook and X, you won't believe it. So we are almost running up. Class is just a 1 hour conversation. Strategies for applying DBIB in addressing DEIB in addressing unconscious biases. Remember what the DEIB is? You can type it in the chat room for me. What is DEIB? What is, so do you mean 17th October? Yes, I think that should be what I mean. Let me check. Yes, that is 17th October. The time will be communicated and you can only take it on that particular time. After that time, you'll be logged out. So that is why you need to prepare to take the exam and forget about it and begin to wait for your certificate. How can we combat the unconscious biases? There should be training about unconscious bias. Many of us are used to DEIB, but not Implement a well standardized hiring process that is hinged on policy, principles, and procedure, not on people. Even your interview process should not be regardless of who is applying or who, you know. Then expand your hiring process. Don't keep it now. Some people, the only place they post their job openings in their church group. That's the only place they post job opening, in their church group. So we need to be more open to this. Advocate for leadership accountability. People need to be responsible for their office and for their actions. Okay, let's run. Tie DEIB to KPIs. Ensure that in your workplace we pay attention to how DIB is implemented and worked through KPIs of line managers and supervisors. DIB is not a HR phenomenon. It's not something that, oh, it is just HR. No. Oh, I don't know if. Okay, while I continue, then from time to time, evaluate your DIB policy and see if it is in line with what is obtainable. See if it's in line with what is obtainable. Don't stay in the illusion that, oh, my company my company give the best when it comes to no, we are we are the number one agent of something that is not tested, something that is not evaluated, something that is not checked, may not. Okay, let's proceed. I think just having a little technical issue. I will. Okay, let's continue. We are almost done. Foster and environment that brings about inclusivity, that everybody is involved. Create an open policy and open dialogue system. Okay. Let career pathway be transparent. Let career pathway be transparent. People should see where they are in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. The promotion should be transparent. Organize mentorship and coaching programs. Pair underrepresented or underperforming employees with mentors. Another thing to do is that use a standardized performance review and appraisal system that is not targeted towards people, but that is more of a system-like build. Leverage on technology and data. Do you know why you should use more technology? Technology don't know who is who. Technology don't know who is who. Let it just be, it just runs on its own. Use tools, technological tools to track what you do, to track diversity, to track identity. By so doing, it's not because of this ethnic group or that ethnic group or that personality. It erodes all that. Then timely have bias audits. Let's get the feedback from the people to know if there is a bias audit. Okay. And lastly, create a system whereby people can give feedback. Create a system where people can give feedback. And your feedback should be anonymous. If you want honest review, make your feedback anonymous. And now, final notes and final takeaways. We've been discussing about DEIB. We've been discussing about it for the past 15 minutes. And there is a book written by a retired justice. I don't know whether it's by Kutugi or by Oputa. He wrote this very voluminous book about justice, and he said something very striking. He said that I have written this 200 and something pages book or 300 pages about justice, but nothing in the book really talk about justice. However, when he sees justice, he will know. When he sees justice, he will know. We've been discussing about biases and unconsciousness attached to it. But none of this in the real sense have addressed it. It is the implementation of all we have gotten here that matters. So I will encourage us as we are when we want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in workplace, we have to, on our own first, detribalize ourselves. We have to empty ourselves. We need to look at ourselves, what our own personal biases, what our background, Empty yourself first. After you've done that, then you can hold on to active listening to understand. In seven habits of highly effective people, he said, seek first to understand before you are understood. That's the third principle. Seek first to understand before you're understood. Today we are having arguments in a particular WhatsApp group. We are going back and forth, arguing. exchanging knowledge, quoting law, quoting different things. At a point, I asked a particular, I said, can I understand your point so that we will know if we're saying the same thing? Do you know, after he explained, we found that we are all saying the same, we are all at the same page. We are all at the same page. So seek first to understand. The next is reflect on outcome of any DEIB initiative you want to bring, and what are the possible storms that may stop it. I remembered when my organization wanted to bring that any you can wear earring as a guy or as a lady, you can you can wear leg chain, you can. We were looking at, will this affect our business? Let's assume that we are not these people that don't believe in this or people that believe in that. Does it really affect business? What is the outcome of this? Can you see that? Before we arrived at our conclusion. So, in talking about the BIB, I need to reflect on the outcome. In the still again on 7 books, 7 habits of highly effective, we said, look at the end from the beginning. Plan the end from the beginning. Be culturally aware and have cultural intelligence. You need to have cultural intelligence. Having cultural intelligence will help you better on how to deal with people, how to address people, how to address situations, how to address things that may come in course of carrying your duty. Because what is obtainable in the north may not be obtainable in the south. And what's obtainable in the south may not be obtainable in the north. So what are your biases? What is the bias of your organization? And that leads me to my other point. Set DEIB goals. What are the goals you need to achieve with this? How does this goal translate into performance? How does it translate into money? Because see, as HR, any English you are speaking that does not translate into Naira and Kobo is not correct English. Nobody will understand you. Your English should be able to and Kobo so that it can appeal. My vision is this, is that. My boss don't listen to me. Why would they listen to you when what you are saying does not translate into Naira and Kobo? So set your performance goals in ways that it will question the foundation, the cultural principle of your organization. Integrate and adapt on the go. Get agile. That's what we're trying to say. Make your system to be an agile system. before, begin to anticipate where the world is going to, begin to anticipate where your environment is going to, begin to anticipate where your your uh, um, your industry is going to. And once you've done this integration, I bet you are ready to handle issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Thank you, and I'll take your questions. I'll take your questions. Where you have questions, please feel free to ask. The materials will be sent for those that are going through the exam route. The materials will be sent for those that are not going through the exam route. You won't get the material, you get your notification for the day of induction. The certificate will be sent to you. All right. Thank you so much for your time. In the absence of any question, we are going to call it a wrap. Thank you for your rapt attention. Please feel free to ask further questions or follow-up questions in the chat box, and I'm sure that we'll be there to answer your questions where need be, that you ask or you need clarity. Okay, we must make our workplace better. We must make diversity and being accommodating to one another, being accommodating to ideas. There are people who are critics in their thought process. It doesn't mean that they don't in any way uh, like what our idea is, but just that they're looking at it from a different perspective, and that's why sometimes this leads to conflict. So we understand the EIB very well and work on our unconscious biases, we find that our workplace become less of conflict or conflict free even. All right, thank you so much for your time, and my time on this is my time on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Since there are no questions, I will humbly take my leave.